So if I'm talking to you in nonsense syllables, it might be something like ha ha ma ha ma ha ma hum ha hum ha ha ma ha ma ha ma ha ma ha ma ha ma ha ma. That's a monologue, right? That's a monologue. I don't have to know what I'm talking about. And like in the conversations yesterday, I might find out that I do know what I'm talking about. Don't forget the silence. Don't forget the silence. But don't freeze for the silence. Stay alive. Breathing, responding. There's so much to respond to. There's nothing to make up. There's nothing to make happen. And you're busy with all these other tasks. And the only problem with it is it's very revealing. If you're willing to be revealed,
yes,
I know, then it's no problem. Because you are entertaining by virtue of your humanity, not by what you do. And that's a new concept, I think, for most of you. So that's hard to, okay, now, if I go to words, I want to do the same thing. Now, I know that this may be in direct opposition to a lot of things that you hear, and it's all true. I mean, that's what I want you to know. It's all true. And that in the beginning, that's so confusing. But I'm only teaching this, you know the story about looking at the elephant and the blind men and the elephant, and they all when somebody says, what's an elephant like, and they can't see the elephant, so somebody goes up and feels it, and somebody describes a trunk, and that's an elephant, and somebody describes a leg, and that's an elephant, and somebody describes it's like a wall, like the side of the elephant. So nothing is the whole story. The elephant is the whole story. So I can just give you the trunk. Okay? But I'm going to give you the trunk with all the passion I have in the world. Isn't it interesting how people want to avoid the silent breath?
because it's the hard part.
Yes! But it's the most important part because it's the most grounding and it keeps you honest. It really keeps you honest. Oh yeah, here I am. This is me. This is not some character I'm playing. This is me. Here I am. Take it or leave it. You come into the world with this perfect emotional instrument. And it gets gnarled up because we try to hide ourselves. But through the breath and through like claiming my right to be who I am, my right to be who I am right now, so that I can come to the words and come to the character whole and find out where it takes me, rather than to decide first and then try and make it happen. Nothing is required but you. But you are wholly required. We want all of you. I'm hearing the words, and as I hear them, they're affecting me. But I'm not trying to make sense out of them. I'm not trying to direct them anywhere. I'm hearing them the way I hear music when I dance. You know how I can dance to music that I don't know? You can just get up and dance to a song you've never heard before, because I'm listening to it as it's happening. First, I want to build up the instrument so that it knows what it's doing and it has the courage to breathe itself. The only thing that's different is what's in my heart and the audience. And those things have to come together while all the other things remain the same. And then in a moment when I clap my hands, just allow yourself to sit up, go back to your regular old normal breathing, aware of your breath, look around the room and see each other in this configuration for one of the last times. Right away. Can you tell me what's happening? Nothing? Doesn't look like nothing. It's good I should forget about this and leave you alone? Are you kidding? Sometimes when the breath is a certain way for a long time because of just your habit of life, and it breaks that habit, and life just comes pouring in, it feels almost more than one can bear. And because it doesn't have a reason, doesn't mean that you don't deserve to feel it. Feelings are not reasonable. We spend a lot of time sitting on it so that we won't feel all that. And then somebody comes along and says, breathe. Okay? I also just want to throw in right now that first hour that we spent together on Wednesday, when that explosion of joy happened in the room, is only the mirror image of this. And the only difference is this might feel more scary because it's less pleasant feelings, but it's just as human and just as important for the fullness of you as an actor, much less a human being. All you need is an inhalation. You're here. Look at that person is totally present right now. You don't have to get more present.
Listen to the traffic. It sounds like a river. I love rivers.
Listen, it sounds like a what? It's like a what?
Like a river.
Oh, it sounds like a river. Wow. What else?
I don't know what I'm saying.
Yes, you do. It's great.
It's great. I tried to build a dam once in a river. It was just a little river. I put a whole bunch of rocks and sticks and shit in that river.
Change the chain. You're doing great. Just change it. Go. Tell me about the rocks.
Then one day I stopped it. I dammed it up, just a little trickle coming out, and the big pool started to form. I was really proud. I had to stop the river. It was so much fun.
Yes, because what I really want to teach you is to play with me.
Okay.
Right? But the rules of the game are speak from the breath.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not the passion. That's not the acting. That's the road the car drives on. If my breath opens because I do an exercise, it's not personal. It doesn't mean anything happened to me. It means I'm getting myself ready to be Medea, for God's sake. Right? And in order to take on Medea, I gotta know those overwhelming feelings are gonna come. If I have any skill at all. And what I can do in those moments when I think I can't take this is breathe. It was so clear when you let your breath be free that you felt safe. Those little moments where you got safe again. Your eyes saw, the energy lit up, and then the breath would hold again and you would disappear again. And in those moments we think, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't go back in there, I have to stay, I have to move away. Because I don't want that disturbance. I love that word. That's what we're looking for as actors. We're looking to be disturbed. In An Actor Prepares, one of the first things Stanislavski talks about is people can't walk across a stage as they walk across a room. So there's something about that being up in front of people that raises the stakes so that the art form is to be fully present in that walk across the stage. So in my approach, so it's like what I learned from Stanislavski is that's necessary, right? That's where we all want to get to. When I heard the words, it's all about the breath, and that is the technique, which I will expound on. I knew it to be true without really understanding what it meant or what to do about it or anything. I just knew it was true. Part of that is probably because I'm a singer. And so there was always a vocabulary about breathing. But I think it goes deeper than that. I think it just hit a spiritual truth that didn't have to be explained. But in order to learn how to do it, it had to be experienced, and then if I was going to teach it, then explained. The technique is maintaining a point of focus on the breath. So in another acting technique, you might have an emotional memory as a point of focus, or you might have the surroundings, the place as a point of focus, or you might have in Sandy Meisner's work, the other person is your point of focus. And the point of a point of focus is simply to have something to come back to when your mind starts to take you away from now. The breath, which is constantly changing, if it's free, if it's what it, if you are allowing it to be free, and that's also part of the work, is discovering how to do that when the impulse, not the instinct, but the habit is to tense up, and the breath tenses up, and everything tenses up, and that's what makes it look unnatural. That's unnatural. So free breath is natural. Manufactured breath is unnatural, and everybody recognizes it all the time. So the technique is to learn how to stay aware of an unhindered, free breath, to recognize when your mind moves on to something else, and to bring it back to the physical sensation of breathing, the awareness of whether I'm inhaling or whether I'm exhaling. Nothing very complicated. When I'm speaking, I'm exhaling. In between phrases, I have to inhale. When you're speaking, I'm inhaling and exhaling, right? But to stay aware of that is the technique. And from that, the miracle happens. Because the focus is inner directed, I become more keenly aware of my own impulses. So I don't have to think about what this character would do. I feel it happen in my body. And the idea is to be able to have the impulse, instead of coming from my body up through my brain and down out of my mouth, that it should come from my body and out of my mouth. So that I don't have to think about things, I don't have to censor them. And I do that through breath awareness and an ever, ever, ever increasing awareness of what's happening in my body, the sensations in my body that are the impulses on which I act. I think what theater is about, it's about many, many, many things, but one of the main things that it's about is being let in on stories that are not our own. And somehow when that happens, we feel less alone. So I've never wanted to be a pilot, but I've wanted, I've longed, I've dreamt. And so I can identify with the story of you wanting to be a pilot as easily as I can identify with something that's actually happened to me. And that capacity that we have as human beings is what makes theater necessary for us. It's not a luxury. It's not a luxury. What we have to do as actors is engage people. It's impossible all the time, but as close to all the time as we can get. So what is it? What is it that's so engaging? What is it? What are those levels on which we communicate that we're not even necessarily aware of, that happen even unconsciously? And how can I, as an actor, exercise those mechanisms, bring them into consciousness so that they become tools for me to work with? One of the ways, I believe, is through the breath. When I first said that I wanted you to tell something significant about yourself, you might have noticed some experience. You might have noticed it in your breath, or you might have just noticed how you felt. Oh, there's a little challenge to start the day. Is there anything significant about me? Or can I tell that? Or is that too personal? Or what can I tell that doesn't reveal? Or what can I tell that does reveal? All those things are manifested in the breath. When the breath is free, then I am the most open, the most responsive, the most willing to share. We develop those patterns of holding the breath or breathing in with tension in order to control our emotions and our behavior. So as children, we start learning to mess with our breath, right? And those habits get very deeply ingrained. And I mean, we probably couldn't have civilization without it. So it's not all a bad thing. It's just that when we're not in danger, we don't need it. If I stand on 6th Avenue and try to direct the traffic downtown, I will be very frustrated. But if I stand on 6th Avenue and direct the traffic uptown, I'll feel very powerful. So I want to go with the traffic. And making up stories leaves out my partners. So that's not where the traffic's going. But discovering what the story is, what happens between the three of us, that's what the story is. So the idea of the breath being this direct route, there are other routes, but in my experience, it is the most direct, the most potent, the most powerful. When I was teaching in Paris last March, and people would speak to me at length, and my translator would be over here waiting, listening, waiting till they were through, until she could tell me what they said. I would find myself listening to people so deeply with the sensation of that I understood everything that was being said, but I clearly didn't. And yet, at this other level, at this level of breath, I know I did. Right? We communicate so much more deeply from this place of breath than we do this place of words. And our job, in a sense, as actors is, because we don't make up the words, Somebody else has done that part. Thank God, you know. But our job is to align that sound with the breath and let the line take care of itself. Let the feelings take care of themselves. I'm listening, and that'll be the next piece we'll get to, but the listening as it comes out helps me stay right here with myself. Right? Because I say the things I'm saying to you all day long, every day, but this astounding thing happens every time I hear myself explain again. I understand it more deeply. It's why I love to teach. And that's what I want to do with text. When I read it off the page, I understand it. I have an emotional experience, but I have no idea what it's going to be like when I get inside of it. When you're my daughter instead of my brand new acting student, right? And you come at home and you tell me that you're 14 and pregnant. I have no idea. I know what it might be, right? I have no idea. Until I'm in there and I hear the words coming from you and I hear my response coming from me as I let that sound flow with the breath. One of Robert's and my connections we learned was that we had both worked with an actor named Luther Adler. There were some nights where he would cry. There were some nights where he got angry. There were some nights where he kind of closed down. There were some nights where he was trying to make her comfortable. And it was like, every time I watched it, it was like I'd never seen it before. And I've always felt so lucky to have had that experience so early in my life as an actress, because I got it. It's not about trying to make it be the same. It's about living this moment on the stage. And I have come to learn that's just as true for filmmaking, take after take after take after take. Yes, I have to put the cigarettes down on the same word. And yes, I have to, be in the light. And yes, I have to have my blouse exactly, but the continuity people will take care of that. My blouse is out of place, somebody will come and fix it, right? My job remains the same as it was on stage, is that every moment comes from the deepest truth that I can muster in that moment. And sometimes it's more and sometimes it's less. But if my integrity as an actor demands as much as I can muster in that moment, it does not demand the result. Because it's the truth of the moment that translates, not some clever thing we all thought up together. And even when it's inside clever things we all, even when it's like very highly developed choreographed farce, for instance, where we're going in and out of doors and all that kind of thing, it can't be just mechanical. Every time I slam that door, I have to really slam that door. But first you have to know that that's what you're aiming for. Because a lot of people still think what they're aiming for is to fix it and then do it that way and divest themselves from it. At the beginning of rehearsals, it's like you're in this great big playground and there are no limitations except the floor and the ceiling and gravity. And with each rehearsal, boundaries become clearer and clearer. And your job, and that's part of what we're going to be exploring, your job is to find the freedom within the boundaries, and that will shift the way it happens, right? But your job is to have as much freedom within the boundary as you had when there was no boundary, except the very boundary will change the way it happens. So for instance, if the boundaries are the wrists, I might feel, well, that's limiting me. But it doesn't matter if I feel that it's limiting me, because my job is to find the freedom in that. So in essence, you can work with somebody who choreographs you down to the little flick of your finger and find the freedom in that. Or you can work with somebody who just says, get up there and do whatever you do. Because your job is to find the freedom in whatever the form is. And as the form becomes more and more defined, in a sense, there's more freedom because it has less chance of dissolving into chaos. How do I step into immediate intimacy with my scene partners and my audience and be fully protected myself? Okay? Because I need to know, I need to be on solid ground. The more vulnerable I become, the more open I become. We can be lovers, we can be parent and child, we can be robbing a bank together, we can be we can be spies in the former Soviet Union, we can be anything to each other that the text allows us to be. We can shoot each other and we can make love to each other and we can trick each other and we can tease each other. And when the scene is over, we can walk away and it has nothing to do with us anymore. We're completely free of the circumstances that are imaginary. And the more we realize that when I step into the imaginary circumstance, I'm free to be as intimate with you as the text demands, and as intimate with the audience as the text demands. But I am safe. You don't know anything more about my relationship with my husband. You don't know anything more about, whether or not I have a child in jail. You don't know anything more. You don't know anything about me. You just know that I have somehow brought these imaginary circumstances to life so that you learn more about yourself. The stage is the safest place to spend time, rather than being that dangerous place where, you know everything about me, I feel naked, and all that kind of stuff, which is very powerful feelings. But rather than seeing it through that prism, I can see it through, wow, I have the freedom here to let people know that inside my soul, I have the ability to be a serial killer. I have that. It came into the world with me every bit as much as I have the ability to be Mother Teresa. And all that is available to me as an actor. And none of it has to have anything to do with how I choose to live my life. First, I have to say, oh, I guess as a human being, I have that all inside me. I might not like to admit that all the time as a socialized human being in a civilized society. But I do. A director, whoever they are, good, bad, or indifferent, wants the best moment or series of moments that you can provide. And best probably means true, spontaneous, exciting, and interesting. Anything that you predetermine before the line or the action is the trouble spot. It's no longer a response if you predetermine what it will be, and therefore it has to be dishonest. So what you want to do is get yourself more present so that you're there to have the response. I'm doing the scene and everything's going along fine, and then I remember, oh, there's a line coming up and I'm supposed to do this. That's the best signal to go back to your breath of all and see what you want to do in that moment. In rehearsals, I want you to do anything that comes to your mind to do. If it's do the scene with a Chinese accent, do it with a Chinese accent. If it's do it on one foot, do it on one foot. Because just because it occurs to you, it's worth exploring. Because you never know what you're going to find as a result of that exploration. And every time you go through words and the words and the situation with a different take, you will learn something about that person that you didn't know and you wouldn't know if you didn't explore it in that way. When you get up here to work, it's not about the exercises, it's not about anything but doing the work, okay? And at that point, it's your job to seek the joy of your own experience as you stay aware of your breath, trusting that whatever rehearsing you did is going to be feeding you, and this is the way to find out what's there now. What you never want to do when you're working up here in class is try to right a wrong that you did before or that somebody else did before. Because you can't right a wrong and seek joy at the same time. The habit that you're trying to get yourself into, the training that you're building week after week after week after week, is about breathing and seeking the joy of your own experience and discovering what's the difference between seeking the joy of my own experience and doing what I think the character needs me to do. And I'm learning what the difference is. You know, if my whole frame of reference is pick up a script and follow every stage direction, or if somebody says, I feel so sad, then I have to find a way to either feel so sad or make it look like I feel so sad because, or, you know, if that's my reference point, then it's going to be a while before I can really know what I mean by my experience. I'm so busy looking at the experience I think it should be that I don't even notice what my experience is. So part of the work is learning to distinguish between what I think I have to do and what I have to do. We always want to approach text as if it were nonsense syllables. Letting sound off the breath, my sound coming straight off my breath is my truth vocalized. My sound coming off my breath, whether it's ha, or whether it's ha-ha-ma, ha-ma, 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 hum, or whether it's I always depend on the kindness of strangers. As close to my truth as I can get coming off my breath. If I try to push something into it or take anything away from it, it's no longer my truth. Holding back sound or pushing sound are the edges, and the whole middle is release of sound. And if I feel myself going off onto one of the edges or other, I just have to come back to the middle. So the whole thing is based on release of sound as opposed to making it sound, providing a feeling or providing a meaning or providing anything else but just what comes up on my breath. The mistake would be to decide, oh yeah, this is an angry scene. Now I'll get up here and be angry and do the scene, rather than get on my breath and take the risk that 84 other feelings will either be there with it or replace it, and it's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to breathe and seek joy and step into this set of imaginary circumstances and play. Many of us carry with us the idea that if I open myself up to a group of people, or I just walk out on stage, right, that there's going to be judging, negative judging. And we forget how beautiful we are. So for the actor who must cultivate a sense of safety in front of people, to be able to just walk out on a stage or walk in front of a camera or walk into an interview or an audition, to cultivate that sense of safety that comes from assuming that I will be seen in a positive way, that I will be seen as a beautiful human being. If I don't trust that I'm the most interesting one of all, to me I am, right? I am. It's true. You are too. If I don't trust that, I have nowhere to go. Doesn't all have to be big. But everything I can do to get more and more clarity about what it means to stay aware of my breath. What'd you have for breakfast this morning? Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt. Do that.
Greek yogurt.
Yes! That's how easy it is. Right? That's how easy it all is. My pleasure in being there is the first thing that gets translated to an audience. Not the character, not the plot. The first thing is, here I am, folks, doing what I love to do most. Once again, if I'm working hard at this, it flops. If I demand from myself that I have fun with this, that it's the game I'm playing, even if I forget one of the rules for a moment or two, it's more valuable to me than if I work hard for 20 minutes and get it all exactly right, because none of it will be right. Because it's no fun. If there's just that witness part, as you're busy doing that, just that witness part is following your breath, you'll find that the feelings come much more freely and that you don't have to work so hard because you're present to yourself. Like you're trying to get some kind of complicated choreography. Probably the tendency of most people is to, work it, get that breath moving and take the risk. Take the risk that your foot will go there instead of there. Instead of where's my foot going to go? Oh, it has to be there, right? And help to cultivate some trust that it's all working for you. It's all working for you. You don't have to have everything right away. And it's all a process, and the enjoyment of it is in the process. And the more you allow yourself to include breathing, not thinking about the breath, not working hard at it, simply observing your breath, observing your breath, observing your breath. More and more will be available to you, and I think you'll find that all these techniques will start to come together as your way of working. So then you're not doing my work anymore, you're not doing somebody else's work, you're not doing Robert's work anymore, you're not doing, these teachers' work or those teachers' work. But all this is starting to feed into you. And then one day you get to teach that, and I'll come and study with you, because I have no way of knowing how it integrates in you until you share it with me. Right? It's such a fabulous thing. It's not a hierarchical thing. Art is not hierarchical. It's collegial. So, the first step in learning to be aware of my breath is to notice that there's an inhalation and an exhalation. And they flow into one another without a break, unless something stops it. So if I'm talking, I'm simply aware of the inhalation that precedes the sound. The sound is my exhalation. When I speak, I'm exhaling. So I just want to be aware of that silent inhalation. It doesn't have to be, right? It's just the one it is. It's just whatever it is. Some will be longer, some will be shorter. It doesn't matter. I don't ever want to mess with my inhalation. It is truly, as your language says much better than mine, my inspiration. I am inspired. So let's take up the whole room. No time for shyness. Every part of you is moving. And then in a moment, I'm going to clap my hands. When I do, I want you to sit up in a fully alive, asymmetrical body and look around and see each other. See each other as if for the first time. Sit right up, really see each other. At the slightest sense of self-consciousness or discomfort, shift your position, change your position. It's as if the world as I see it from this position is totally different from the world that I see over here. And we think that we are at the effect of the outside, but actually we have great power just by shifting our point of view. So that's what we're doing, shifting our point of view. My mind is watching my body breathe without fixing the breath. And the sound, as we'll do it now, is simply a sigh, a ha. That's going to go all the way through the breath. It starts with a ha. It comes off the breath a little bit more easily, and we want to start thinking of sound. We want to start thinking of dialogue, even text, as sound that just falls off the breath. Just falls off the breath without being controlled. We want to let go of the control that we place on text and let the breath take care of it. Okay, fabulous. And sit up, look around the room, see who's here, fully alive in your body. What I'm going to do with my body now is movements as if I were already laughing hysterically. Okay? Now, I'm not going to try to laugh hysterically. I'm just going to release sound that goes with what's happening with my body. I'm not going to try and think of something funny or try and make it sound like I'm laughing. I'm just working with the sound and the movement. Okay, great. Fabulous. Okay. The next one is same sound, same ha, inhalation, ha, right? Same sound, only this time it's going to be crying movements. Again, I'm not trying to feel sad. I'm not trying to think of something that's going to make me cry. I'm simply releasing sound from the breath. Okay? Okay? Now, it's really aware. It may be, just like when you were laughing, it may be that some people really started laughing and some people just made the sound. It's all the same in terms of watching it. In this case, the feeling might come up, and some feeling will come up, but what we would think of as appropriate feelings might come up, or they might not. Irrelevant. Okay? Sound and breath, sound, movement, and breath, sound, movement, and breath. Really be aware of the inhalations that precede the sound, because otherwise you can get really tight in your throat, and you don't want to do that. So you need to do the sound. Okay? Questions? Enjoy. And now there's one last step. And that's coming. And the next step is to combine them. And sit up, look around the room, see who's here. Really see all these other insane people embracing our insanity. Embracing our ability to celebrate life. We are working the instrument. So, for instance, if I have a classical guitar and I'm learning how to play the classical guitar, if I start to worry about sounding like Andre Segovia playing the classical guitar, it's over. My lessons are over, because I'm never gonna learn how the fingers work and how which notes are which and how they come together and how to separate them and all the things I have to learn, how to tune it to play this instrument. And it is through the continued practice of playing the instrument that I get to know how the instrument works, that it becomes a part of who I am. So that's the first thing. So what we're doing together mostly is not simple, but simply instrument work. How does this work? What does it mean to release sound off the breath? What does it mean to be aware of my breath? What does it mean to listen as I speak? What does it mean to listen when someone else speaks? What does it mean? How does it work on me? But we have a little piece of insight, having gone through the laughing, crying, coming exercise. And that is that it's all energy being released. It's all energy unattached to meaning before it happens, although it attaches itself to meaning as it's happening. This is what we were just talking about. Okay? So to release energy is to release energy. So if I release energy by slamming a door, that's one way of releasing energy. If I release energy by laughing, that's one way of releasing energy. If I release energy by nurturing Joanna, it's a release of energy. That's what we do. We release energy. We release energy and we're refilled, and we release energy and we're refilled. And as freely as I can go from laughing, crying to coming, if I put nothing in the way, I can respond in any way that is required. We're approaching text from the simplicity of dropping sound off the breath, just what we've been talking about. The ha sound we've been using is one of two sounds that we're going to make this language out of. So it's ha, hum. Ha, hama, hama, hum. Ha, hama. Ha, hama, hama. Ah, hama, hama, hama. Hama, hum. Ha, hama, 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 hama. Hama? Oh, hama. Hama, hama, hama. Hama, hama, hum. Ha, hama? Hama? Ha, hama, hum? Hama, 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 hum. Hama, hum. Hama, 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 hama. So if you know the story, you're better than I. Okay. But what I am doing, if not telling you a purposeful story, what I am doing is listening to myself as I speak, listening to my breath, making sure the sound is coming right from a new inhalation. Sometimes the phrases are short, sometimes they're longer, sometimes they're of medium length, right? I'm seeing you, but I'm not demanding that you engage with me. Actually seeing people stimulates things in you, so you don't have to dig deep to find stimulation. And I'm playing with the variety of the sound. Hama hama, hama hama hama, hama 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 hama. Right? High and low, fast and slow, loud and soft. I'm playing with the variety of the sound, and I'm playing with my body. I don't know why, whatever I started to do. I had no particular reason to do that, except it felt like it would be fun. That's the work. And tomorrow we're going to add text to that work, but it's going to be approached in the exact same way. I like to work with a phrase that you'll hear a lot of in the next 2 days, which is, let it be true. Let it be true that I'm in conversation. Let it be true that I just got off the streetcar named Desire. Let it be true that I'm plotting to murder the king with my husband Macbeth. Let it be true. I just would caution you not to worry about what you're saying. You either know what you're saying or you don't know what you're saying, but it doesn't matter. Again, because where we're headed is with text to let go of worrying about what I'm saying and listen to it instead. So I want to hear those sounds coming out of me. I want to respond to those sounds coming out of me. But I don't want to predetermine what they mean. So even the most famous lines in the English language anyway are, I suppose, to be or not to be, that is the question. Just those few little words have so many layers of meanings if I let myself hear them. that I could never run out of meanings. I could never run out of learning what I'm talking about. Sometimes people think, what am I saying? It's a perfectly normal thing for a person to think. What am I saying? Or what am I doing here? Or, am I even connected with this? We think thoughts, don't listen carefully. Thoughts go through our mind all the time, and we're not going to keep them out. That's what our minds are for. However, if when I notice that my mind is chiming in and trying to grab control, I can go back to my breath. I can see somebody else. I can adjust my body, do something else physically. And then I'm in a totally new place. And the time will come when I'll get caught again in my brain. And it doesn't matter whether it's 30 seconds later or 12 seconds later or 3 minutes later. It'll come, but I'll be prepared for it because I'll know what to do. I'll come back to my breath, I'll see somebody else, and I'll adjust my body. And that's it.
Yeah. It's so easy.
That's it.
Sounds so easy.
It's also, it's both incredibly easy and it's also incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
All at the same time. And that's what's fabulous. The more demanding the text in terms of where it takes me emotionally, the harder I have to work to stay with that breath. Then all I have to do is be willing to feel the feelings that I feel as the scene is being played. One of the ways of expressing the goal of this exercise is what I like to call seeking the joy of your own experience. So it's not based on what it looks like from the outside, but based on what it feels like from the inside. Let's say on a regular day, I have that kind of range of motion. But let's say, God forbid, I have an injury and I can't quite, without hurting, I can't quite get my arm past here. This is it for me this day, right? But I have in my mind that I should be doing that. If I force myself to do that, it's not the joy of my experience. It hurts. Right? So, how can I do this? How can I find the freedom with that kind of movement so that it feels good today, so that I can have a complete warm-up with this body that I've brought in with me today? Yes? So remember, we're blowing out until all the air is gone, opening the mouth to receive the new breath. As soon as it's in, blowing out again, and letting my body follow my breath. Letting my body dance to the music of my breath. And stop where you are, keep breathing, and stay in that position. And allow yourself to know, if this were a movie, and this was a single frame in the movie, what would be your story? Without thinking about it, just know who you are to each other and what's happening. Let's just hear those stories real quick. Joanna, who are you?
She's my sister, and we hang in dancing class.
Okay. Eric?
She's my daughter, and I
Ah, good. Pauline?
It's my dad and we're at the fair.
Okay, okay. I want you to notice how immediate your imagination is. Your imagination is at work all the time. You don't have to dig deep for it when your body is free and your breath is free. What you're doing is attuning yourself to the subtlest signals in your body. You understand? Your body has loads of information for you all over your body. My knee just wanted to bend, right? If I was standing here and going, oh no, it wouldn't be proper to bend my knee, then all that energy would block right here. And I wouldn't be able to feel anymore that energy moving through my leg. So I'm attuning myself. As I release the tension, as I release the energy, my body is becoming more and more finely tuned to give me the information that I need to move forward. You're never going to be a prop in my scene. You're going to be a living, breathing person, and we're in this scene together, whoever's talking. So were you able to stay aware of that inhalation most of the time? And when you forget, you just go back to it, right? In terms of the breath, you want to let the breath be as free as it can be. So you're just observing it, you're witnessing it, just observing it. You want to have the inhalation precede each breath with sound. And you want to give yourself time to listen. And your listening time is your silent breath. Okay? And the thing about the environment. Don't worry about what you're talking about. You may know, you may not know. You may think you know, and then all of a sudden it's something else. Don't worry about that. Just have fun with this. There are a few questions you want to ask yourself after a piece of work. Did I do everything I wanted to do? Did I do something I thought I had to do out of an obligation to my partner or the scene? And was I aware of my breathing? If you just ask yourself those three questions after every piece of work and give yourself room to be imperfect. In any acting technique, I'm going to be focused on action. Acting is action. Right? So I can judge myself on what I do even if I forget how I feel. It's not really important how I feel. It's important that I feel, and I will. But it's the action. So the action, am I doing everything I wanted to do? Am I staying aware of my breath? At the same time, if I do something because I think my partner wants me to do it, or I think the playwright wants me to do it, or whatever, it feels bad. It's like a violation of my joy-seeking. And this time, I want you, without doing any work to make it happen, I want you to just let it be true. That you are plotting a bank robbery.
Oh, yes. Inside man.
And again, don't even decide this in the beginning. One of you is more experienced, and one of you has never done it before. So you're going to discover as we go which one you are. Okay? That's what you want your work to feel like. Whatever the situation and whatever the emotions, because those are changing all the time. But the freedom and the fun of engagement, that's the goal for your work at all times. What we want to do is be able to have the same kind of experience with text. So the breath is leading, not the words. The words are just what get dropped on the breath, because our contribution, if the words have already been written, we don't have a lot to say about the words. Our contribution to the whole is to create the life out of which the words come. The lighting director makes it possible for everybody to see it. The set director gives an environment. The playwright creates the words and the circumstances. And the actor brings the life.
Yeah! Milk, it's essential to my well-being.
Okay, good. We're almost home now. People who live in the same house don't always look at each other when they talk to each other because we're too familiar. So you don't have to stop what you're doing to look at the person. When you want to see them, when they capture your attention, you'll look.
Okay. Yeah.
But that was really great until you okay, now I'm talking to you, now I have to stop my action. Okay, start again. Put your hands on your hips and breathe. Breathe, breathe, mouth open. You see how she comes alive right away? Those words that made no sense together before, all of a sudden in that moment, had a flow, yes? Had a sense of flow. We could understand why one person would respond with something that, right? Because it's the breath that's communicating. Good. Everybody's in this scene. Everybody's an actor, no audience. Aware of every breath, aware of every breath. There's no train leaving, so you don't have to say that line until you are having so much fun that the line is the least important part of what you're doing. You can do anything. Anything.
Your throat. Your neck. I just want to put my tongue in your ear. I just want to love you a little.
Come with me to my place, and we Drinking.
You all just experienced, to a very great extent, letting the words go, letting them be what they were, what they wanted to be in the moment. Yes? That's what you were doing. The focus was the breath, and the words just came falling out of your mouth, and they were supported by all these parts. And then, as you heard them come from you, you knew what you were saying. If I try to control the words, if I try to determine what I'm supposed to feel when I say the words, I grind them into the earth and they become dust. When they surprise me as they come falling off my breath, they affect me enormously. And all the feelings happen spontaneously. Because I'm listening to them just like my audience is listening to them. And because now the words are no longer this monotony, I hope I hit the right feeling or the right note, or I hope it makes sense, or all that kind of thing. They are my words. Somebody else wrote them, but the I's are me, and the me's are me, and the you's are you. Not just some I, generalized I and you. And the experience that I'm talking about happens to me.